You know that feeling when you scroll through a sea of sleek desktop listings, each one promising blazing speed and future-proof performance, only to end up with a machine that feels sluggish the minute you plug it in? I've been there, and I've also seen friends waste a good chunk of their budget on a box that looked perfect on paper but left them swapping out components within weeks. That's why I'm doing this deep dive on the HP ProDesk 600 so you can decide if it really lives up to the hype before you hit Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of work this machine is built for. The ProDesk 600 is marketed as a business-class desktop, and the core of that claim is the 6-core Intel i5-10400F. At 2.9 GHz base and the ability to boost higher, it's comfortably in the sweet spot for office suites, web-based CRM tools, and even light data analysis. I ran a few typical office workflows, opening multiple office documents, juggling a browser with a dozen tabs, and pulling reports from a cloud database, and the system never hesitated. The 16 GB of DDR4 RAM also means you can keep those tabs open without watching the machine grind to a halt, which is a common pain point on cheaper office PCs that skimp on memory. Now, the SSD is where the day-to-day experience really shines. A 512 GB PCIe NVMe drive boots Windows 11 Pro in under 10 seconds, and loading applications feels instantaneous. For anyone who's used a spinning hard drive in the past, the difference is night and day. You'll notice it the moment you double-click Outlook or launch a PDF viewer. The storage capacity is decent for a single-user office setup, enough for the OS, a suite of productivity apps, and a solid stash of documents or small media files. If you're a photographer or video editor who needs terabytes of space, you'll eventually want an external drive, but for the intended audience, that's not a deal breaker. Graphics are often a footnote on business desktops, but the ProDesk includes a GeForce GT 610 with 2 GB of DDR3 video memory. It's not a gaming card by any stretch, yet it handles everyday multi-monitor setups without flicker. I hooked up two 1080p monitors and ran a spreadsheet on one while a video conference streamed on the other, and the experience was smooth. Even light Photoshop tasks, like cropping and layer adjustments, were handled fine. If your day involves intensive 3D rendering or modern gaming, you'll need a more powerful GPU. But for typical office visualizations, the GT 610 does the job. Connectivity is another area where the ProDesk tries to be thorough. The front panel gives you quick access to USB-A ports, a headphone jack, and an SD card reader, which is handy if you need to transfer files from a camera or bring in a presentation on a flash drive. The rear offers a mix of USB-C, Ethernet, and HDMI, covering most peripheral needs. One practical snag I ran into was the lack of a dedicated USB-C power delivery port, meaning you can't charge a laptop from the desktop, something a few newer business models are starting to include. It's not a deal breaker unless you rely on that convenience. So, who should actually consider buying this machine? If you're a small to medium business owner looking for a reliable workstation for employees who spend most of their day in office, email, and web-based tools, the ProDesk 600 hits the sweet spot. The combination of a competent CPU, ample RAM, and fast storage means you can run multiple applications simultaneously without the dreaded, not responding dialog. It's also a solid choice for remote workers who need a stable Windows 11 Pro environment with built-in security features, and the pre-installed HP wired keyboard saves you from hunting down a decent office keyboard. On the other hand, there are clear reasons to walk away. If your workflow leans heavily on graphics-intensive tasks like video editing in Premiere, 3D modeling in Blender, or any modern gaming, the GT 610 will quickly become a bottleneck, and you'll probably regret the purchase once you try to push it beyond its limits. Likewise, if you need a lot of internal storage for large media libraries, the 512 GB SSD will fill up fast, and while you can add a secondary HDD, that adds cost and complexity. Finally, if you're looking for a sleek, compact design for a home office that blends into a living room, the ProDesk's conventional tower form factor is more utilitarian than aesthetic. Let's dig into the practical strengths that set this model apart from other budget business desktops. The first is the balance between CPU power and price. The i5-10400F, while lacking integrated graphics, benefits from a dedicated GPU that offloads display duties, keeping the CPU focused on compute tasks. This results in smoother multitasking, especially when you're juggling spreadsheets, video calls, and a web browser, all common in a modern office day. Second, the SSD not only speeds up boot and load times, but also reduces wear and tear compared to a mechanical drive, which translates to a longer lifespan under continuous use. Third, HP's business-oriented firmware includes